Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Graham. It is a beautiful day outside, and it's spring, and the weather is a little bit different, a little bit nicer, and we just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses. And so I thought, hey, that book is about the spring court. We should do this outside. So I want to apologize right off the bat if audio seems different. That's rough, that sucks. If there's planes going overhead, I'm sorry. We're working on this, and you know what? You might not even see this video if audio turns out too bad. But as always, my name is Graham, and I read a bonus book this week. All of us in reading fantasy, or every book reader ever, as they walk through their favorite bookstore, goes to the fantasy section, and there's just a section dedicated to this series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and anything by Sarah J Maas. She's a hot commodity right now, and it's everywhere. And at first I was like, oh, I'm really excited to get into this series, and then as time grew on, I heard that it was a fantasy romance, and my interest kind of went, I don't know, do I really want to watch it, or not watch it, but do I really want to read it? Is that going to be something I'm going to be into? And then my wife got into it because a lot of her friends suggested it, that she reads it, and she said, hey, you should read this book and join me on this because I'm having a really fun time with it. So this is it. I decided to read the very first book, and this is kind of my thoughts on it. The first problem that I had, or the thing that made me want to stay away from it, is it not only was a fantasy romance, but a lot of people and fans, and even Instagram, make it sound like it's really, really like steamy and like spicy, eggplant emoji, peach emoji, wolf emoji, whatever you want to put in there to make it seem like intense. And so it kind of was like, oh man, is it just kind of like this like really like smutty type stuff that I don't necessarily want to like read chapters of like one scene. But actually it's not. It's a fantasy story through and through, and the romance in it and scenes that can be a little bit spicy make sense so far. I don't know how the rest of the series, but I know the first book there's only a few spicy scenes, and they're good, but they're not like overdone in my opinion. It was like, that makes sense for what they're doing. Yes. I have my puppies down here. They wanted to sit next to me during the video. I don't think the camera's low enough for them to see them, but yes. But yeah, the spice level wasn't as much as I thought. And so first off, if you're someone who was like me, kind of like hearing about that, thinking it was going to be similar to that vein, it's actually not. It's a really good fantasy story and really interesting. So first off, the whole part of this book is it's about a character by the name of Fair, and she is somebody who is providing for her family. She is the youngest daughter of them, but made her mom, who died when she was young, she made a promise to them that she would take care of the family. And so the very beginning chapter, she ends up shooting a giant wolf, and the wolf ends up being a fairy, and fairy, according to the pact, shows up to the door and kidnaps her away to his land as payment for killing one of their own. And so that is the premise of the story. She's in this new area, not trusting this person whose name is Tamlin, and his friend Lucian. They are in the spring court and living their life, and she has to kind of understand the Feywild as she's there. And so it's really fascinating to have this story about fairies. I've never read a fantasy book about the Fae, and what's really cool about this is the Fae are not the typical like, I'm an elf or
I'm a pixie
or things of that nature. They are actual, seems like malicious type characters. Like, they are monsters, and they are scary, and there's a lot of like things that she has to go through as she does that. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But what I will say was a problem in the beginning of the book is this story is very Beauty and the Beast. The tale as old as time of Beast kidnapping a princess, and there is a curse amongst the people, and the princess can somewhat break the curse in some way. This story is the exact thing as Beauty and the Beast, and can come across as pretty boring for the first few pages, but well written. There are some things that Sarah J Maas does that's kind of funny to me. I remember in the beginning of the book, I was like, man, that was a really cool way of explaining chills. It was like a spider crawling up my back. Was interesting. Like, that was really cool that was making them express scared. Well, then something happened where she was tense again, and the same thing was used, and the same phrasing was used. It was like Sarah J Maas was like, this is really good, I'm going to use it for everything I do, where it became kind of like something I laugh at. Like if I was playing a drinking game, I would be taking a shot every time I read the spider crawled up my back to represent chills, or my bowels became watery was another one that made me laugh. But other than that, the story was well written and very fun in that way. You discover more about Faye, Tamlin, and Lucian, and you understand that they are cursed by a bad person by the name of Amarantha. I keep forgetting Amarantha's name when I was trying to talk to my wife about this book, because she had me to. The first name that popped in my head was Lady Teresa, which is a good person, but when I was explaining to her the badness of Amarantha, I was literally just like, Lady Teresa did this, and that was bad. And so yeah, so I made sure to write it down for the video. But remember, every time I say that, I'm thinking of Lady Teresa now. So keep that in your mental image. She also runs into someone else as well by the name of Rhys or Rhysland, who becomes a pinnacle part in the story as well. And that's kind of like the premise so far, right? It's Beauty and the Beast between Fair and Tamlin. They are trying to make a love story, and that definitely is there. But then the reason I think these books are so popular is because it fills like this hole that we always have every year. There's always like a book that comes out that involves like love triangles. So for example, we have like Twilight was when I was like in high school, and then it was like The Hunger Games had a love triangle, and this book's no different. Eventually you get to a point where Tamlin and Rhys are kind of like this love triangle with Fair in a weird way. At least that's how I'm interpreting it, because it was very, how Rhys was introduced was like, he's very attractive. You're like, great, this is going to be like the next love triangle interest. So the Beauty and the Beast story happens. There is a way, or the curse is failed. The curse fails. And that was the really turning point of the book. Around page 250, Fair is talking to someone from the Spring Court and finally has the realization that she messed up. She was sent away to go back to her family, and she was supposed to do something to save the people and save the curse, and she gets told about that. And that's as much as I'll go to stop spoilers there. That's what you'll read, and you'll be like, oh man, she messed up, and then there's like a major point in there. So if you don't want any more spoilers, or you haven't read this book yet, or you wanted to know kind of like a viewpoint of somebody who was kind of hesitant towards the series, it's the first book's kind of like, oh, I've read this type before, and then once it's about page 250 where they you find out more about the curse and how it's broken, is when it gets really, really exciting, and it made me more hooked to be able to finish it. So I think it's worth a read, and this book, the first book, is it feels like it could be done. You don't have to read any more after that, which is really, really cool. So if you just wanted to try it, you won't, for me, like, there was nothing that made me go like, I should read book 2, but I probably will, but there's nothing that drew me in that instance. It felt like a pretty completed story. So I recommend trying the first book at least to see if it's like a world that's your jam, and I really enjoyed the whole Fae aspect and the world building in that area. The first book does a really good job of setting the rules of what the Fae are. Anyways, to spoilers. So pretty much we have Alice telling Faye that she should have said I love you to Tamlin before, you know, she left, and it would have broken the curse. And so you come back learning that information, which makes you immediately go, oh, Tamlin is kind of a jerk because he did everything on purpose to capture you, and you don't know how true his feelings are, in my opinion, right? That's a huge red flag as far as love interest, because he did everything on purpose and felt very planned in that way. So she realized she has to go face Amarantha to save Tamlin, her love, and there she has to go through trials, and she makes a deal with it, and that is where the book is crazy, where you have 3 trials, and at this point I was thinking, man, this will be the start of the series. Like, these 3 trials, every book's going to be about this trial. No, the last 100 pages is literally like back-to-back trials on every full moon. Like fighting a worm, to being able to stop the reading puzzle, and also the last one where she had to kill 3 Fae and one of them ending up being Tamlin was like a crazy twist. But I loved what the author did at the end. I felt like the buyout was really, really good because you did pay attention to what people were saying. It talked about his heart of stone, and her being able to stab him in the heart and it actually be stone was really well played, and I loved that. And it was really, really good. So I enjoyed that part a lot. My dog just hit the camera, and that's okay. But yeah, so I thought the book was really, really good, and I enjoyed the interaction with Rhys. I thought that was fascinating how he now what we'll see in the next book is every single week or every month, 1 week will be spent in the Night Court with Rhys, and you got to see them kind of gain some trust where Rhys was a villain but then ended up being a good guy because he was doing everything to help break the curse, and you could see he felt a lot with Fear by the end of it and started gaining feelings for her as well. And so it's going to be a very interesting love triangle. Right now she's really set on Tamlin, but I'm pretty sure it's going to break away and be mostly about Rhys in the next book, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I enjoyed this series. I think this is a series that, like, I understand why it's so popular now. What I would rate it is I would give it either a 3.5 or 4 stars. Maybe we'll do a 3.75. I've never done a 3.75, but we'll put it in there because, you know, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't quite think it was like at to some level as some fantasy books, but the series apparently gets a lot better after the first one, because the first one did have a lot of the same pacing as like a Beauty and the Beast story, where it's like, I've read this before a couple times. A lot of fantasy authors do this. Like, I even think another famous fantasy author, Brandon Sanderson, has a Beauty and the Beast story, and you're like, nice. So I think we see that story played a lot, and it's cool, you know. So it was interesting. So I give it 3.75 stars. I think it was a lot of fun. I'll probably read the second one when I have some more time. I just ended up reading so much this week, and it was cool to be able to kind of join the conversation with my wife as she's reading the series as well and enjoying it. So stay tuned to see if I end up reading the whole series, and if you like the series, let me know what your favorite parts are and what your favorite book of the series is, because I'm curious as to what goes on. In my guesses, my predictions for the next books is I think that she's going to be in the Night Court more. There was a part at the very end where Rhys was shocked and disappeared, and at first I was thinking maybe he saw Fear turns into an actual Fae creature, a high Fae, and so she's no longer immortal. And so I was thinking that he first saw her power coming out, and it scared him a little bit. But after I thought about it, Amaram's, I think was her name, I forgot. But I think her father might be invading the Night Court, and that's what made him teleport, because he has eyes and spies everywhere, and so he was like, oh crap, now I'm in trouble. And so the second book's going to involve a lot with that, I believe, and you're going to see a lot of fallout with her and Tamlin, and she's going to go through depression because she's really messed up by the end of the book of killing those 3 Fae creatures, and being upset about it internally because it was a very intimate moment for her to do that. And so that's going to be fascinating. Yeah, so I'm excited to read on. That's my guess of what's going to happen. Let me know your favorite book. And as always, thanks for watching my channel and this little bonus video out this week. So I'll talk to you guys later, and toodles. Bye.